Welcome to Orphaned Entertainment, the podcast dedicated to public domain and abandoned media. I'm your host, Christopher, and with me is the person who is never wrongly accused. It's Lydia.
I thought you were going to say salam alaikum, and I was going to say wa alaikum salam, but yeah. Hi.
Hi. Wonderful to speak with you again.
Yeah, it's always fun to be here. This is going to be an interesting movie.
It is going to be interesting. Well, I want to thank everyone else for tuning into this episode. Orphaned Entertainment is available wherever you get your podcasts and wherever you listen. If you have the option to do so, please consider leaving a rating or review. It really does help more people discover the show. We have a YouTube channel where you can watch many of the movies we've discussed on the show. Go to youtube.com and search for Orphaned Entertainment. And if you would like to reach out, we'd love to hear from you. You can send comments, suggestions, or even a recorded message to orphanedentertainment@gmail.com. You'll find a link in the show notes that will get you to all our social media accounts, as well as ways you can support the show financially. These links can also be found on our website at orphanedentertainment.com. I do not have a huge pile of emails or anything like we had last month, but I do have a comment here. I do have a couple comments here. One from Pete Quint, who was commenting on The Kid and silent films in general. He says, without the creativity, innovation, and efforts of the likes of Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, and Charlie Chaplin, cinema as we know it would not be the same. To see what the creators were able to do without the help of computers is nothing short of astonishing. Please do yourself a favor and take in some of these early silent films and marvel at the accomplishment of these early filmmakers. These films are not binge-worthy, but you'll be rewarded checking them out a little at a time. Then Mark Caterberg shared his review of the film The Kid. He watched it just recently, and he says he hasn't seen much Chaplin, but is always shocked at how much pathos his films bring. Coogan is no slouch for a child actor, really hitting the comedy and intense emotions hard. Part of the fun is the world of 1921, but the emotions still hit today. And he also says, the dream bit? Weird.
I think we completely agreed with that.
I think we did. So thank you both for leaving these comments on the social media and sharing your reviews and everything. I think Pete was probably referring, I must have made a comment about when I posted the film that we were going to be doing as far as the Kid. I mentioned that we were finally doing a Charlie Chaplin, and that maybe I even said somewhere that we haven't done a lot of silent films. And so apparently Pete has dipped his toes a little deeper into the silent film world, and he's suggesting that we don't shy away from them, and we will certainly not. I think we discussed that quite a bit in the actual episode.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, we were just before we started recording talking about a couple of outside of our genre things that we've been watching, and I mentioned Flow. 2024 animated film, which also has no dialogue. And I always feel like I have to convince people it's got no dialogue, but you really should give it a try. It's really good. And then, we don't do a whole lot of silent film kind of stuff this day. Usually they're kind of art house. Actually, I think my partner Jack, was saying the other day, hey, we should watch Silent Movie, the Mel Brooks movie. And
oh, yes. I love that. Oh, really? Oh, I love that film.
No, I'm like, darn it, that would have tied in really perfectly. So we'll end up watching it probably this weekend because we keep talking about it. We're kind of going through the Mel Brooks movies very slowly. We've been through a whole bunch of them in the past, but I never got through, of course, the entire collection. But I think we don't think about silent movies these days, or we only think of them as art house kind of things. But there is a lot that you can do with the emotion in a silent movie that, I mean, it relies heavily on the emotion, where you can kind of fudge it with dialogue. I think we'll talk about that a little bit today. If you have maybe a gap where an actor is maybe not doing as great as maybe some of the other actors are doing, or maybe there just are things that you can fill, something. If you can't shoot it, you can say, oh, look, he's flying, and people will go, oh, okay, so then the character flew without even having to see it. But when you're doing a silent film, you can't get away with that. You really have to show everything step by step as it happens. So I think that makes these movies really interesting. It makes modern films that don't have any dialogue also super interesting. There's an episode of Inside Number 9, the second episode, that you get through this entire episode not realizing the entire episode has one line of dialogue at the very end. And you don't notice because it's so well done. Highly recommend going and watching that episode, even if you don't watch any of the rest of the series. But we don't get that a lot. We rely so much on special effects and on dialogue and on complicated plot devices. It's really a pleasure to see when the effort is put into a modern film to try and do what these old films did. And
absolutely.
It's neat to see that tie-in.
One of my favorite episodes of the old Dexter's Laboratory cartoon. There is a segment that has 2 lines of dialogue at the very end, and the other, I guess it's a 5 to 7 minute segment. Mm-hmm. Not a peep is spoken, and I saw that. That is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah. When it's done well, it's excellent. And when it's not done well, people don't watch it. It's right. That's kind of all there is. But those are good reminders. I think we're talking about watching. I mean, of course, we're getting a lot of films coming into the public domain now that have not been. And it'll be fun to see what comes up as we go forward.
Absolutely. Well, with that, let's listen. Well, actually, I don't know what we're going to listen to because I believe I have run out of the Ellery Queen 1 Minute Mysteries. But we'll definitely hear a promo for another podcast. And when we return, we will take a peek into the hole in the wall.
Another 5-minute mystery. Circuits are humming with calls radiating out from FBI headquarters in Chicago to agents in the West. As our scene opens, we hear...
Denver FBI, Knox speaking.
Hello, Knox. This is Sam Judson in Chicago reporting a jewel theft.
I'm listening.
Mr. Digby, president of Giles Department Store here, reported it a short while ago. They're selling the Babson collection of jewels.
Some nice rocks in that batch, I'll bet.
Yes, and one of them is missing. A fabulous diamond bracelet.
Where do we go from there?
It seems that the bracelet was first missed about 3:30. Several customers had been interested during the afternoon. One man in particular stands out in the clerk's mind.
Well, what's his description?
About 50, gray hair, bushy eyebrows, and penetrating brown eyes. Very distinguished.
Anything unusual?
Yes, a slight French accent.
Well, where does the Denver Bureau fit into the puzzle?
Maybe it doesn't, but the chief wants all the westbound trains checked to see if we can locate the Frenchman. Assuming that the thief was in Giles' store in Chicago around 3:30 and left for the west on the first train, he would have caught the 5:30. When she goes through Denver, get aboard and see what you can see.
Well, how do you figure he left Chicago on a train and is heading for the coast?
It is pretty flimsy evidence, but oddly enough, he took the clerk's name. Said on his return from the west coast, he would stop in again.
Can you beat that for boldness? Well, you may be right after all about his being on one of the western-bound trains.
That's for you to find out, my boy. Good luck.
Thanks, Judson. See you soon, I hope. I beg your pardon, but haven't I seen you somewhere before?
I believe it not, monsieur.
Funny, though. I thought I might have seen you in Chicago.
I have never been there myself. I passed through only on this train yesterday for the first time. I wish we had time to get off and look around.
Oh, you're not traveling with someone else, huh?
Oh, yes, my wife, Madame Bedeau, and I left New York together several days ago.
Where are you bound?
for the West Coast.
Well, I hope your business isn't too pressing, because I'm going to have to ask you to get off at the next stop with me.
Oh, but monsieur, this is some sort of a joke. 1 minute you wish to be my friend, the next minute my enemy.
On the contrary, Mr. Badeau, I'm an agent of the FBI, and your description fits perfectly the case I'm working on. The mistake in your alibi also fits. Wouldn't I be foolish to let you slip through my fingers?
But I know nothing of this case, monsieur.
I have a wire in my pocket dated March 10th, 1945, confirming my instructions from our Chicago office. The story fits perfectly. This is it, Mr. Badeau, where you get off.
How did Knox decide that Badeau was his man? In a minute, Knox will tell us how, but first...
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Hear your host, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classics and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit monsterkidradio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival, Classic Monsters, Modern Talk, and the head of Rondo Hatton, only on Monster Kid Radio.
And now, back to the solution of our story.
Being a foreigner who apparently had not done much traveling in this country, Mr. Badeau did not realize that there is no train service through from east to the west coast. There is always a break in Chicago where one has to change to another train. So when Mr. Badeau declared he had not been off the train and had come through from New York, I was pretty convinced that he was my man. And as it turned out, I was right.
The Hole in the Wall is a 1929 pre-code mystery directed by Robert Florey and starring Claudette Colbert and Edward G. Robinson. The film was shot at Paramount's Astoria Studios in New York and is a remake of an earlier 1921 silent film of the same name, which in turn was based on Fred Jackson's 1920 Broadway play, again of the same name. In the film, Jim, Goofy, the Fox, and Madame Mystera run a fake mystic scam in order to bilk rich believers out of their money. When Madame Mystera is killed in a freak L-train derailment, the gang begin talks to all move on to new rackets until a woman shows up at their door looking for Mystera. Jean Oliver has spent the last 4 years in prison for a theft she didn't commit. She was told by a fellow prisoner that Mystera might be able to help her exact revenge on the woman that framed her. Jean wants to kidnap the woman's granddaughter and raise her as her own and turn her into a crook and against her family. The Fox offers to help Jean if she'll be their new clairvoyant. Agreeing to the terms, the gang proceeds with the plan, but the police chief and a reporter that may have a link to Jean's past have suspicions about the front the gang has been running and threatens to unravel everything. Now, I am sure we spoke about Edward G. Robinson when we reviewed 1945's Scarlet Street, excellent film, and 1947's The Red House, amazing film.
Yes. High hopes just based on those two.
But I will mention that this film was Robinson's first appearance as a sort of crime boss or gangster. He will be forever connected to the kind of gangster persona after his starring role in 1931's Little Caesar. But just because I'm not bringing up a lot about him is okay, because I have a lot of information about our other star, Claudette Colbert. She was born in France as Emily Lily Claudette Chauchon, and when she was still a child, her family moved to New York City. She initially studied art and fashion design, but a chance opportunity landed her a small role in a Broadway play, The Wild Westcotts, in 1923. That brief appearance ignited a stage career, and she adopted the name Claudette Colbert, Colbert being her paternal grandmother's maiden name. Throughout the 1920s, she appeared in a variety of shows in a variety of genres on Broadway before transitioning into films just as Hollywood was moving from silent movies to sound. She had signed with Paramount Pictures in 1928 and soon became one of the studio's most popular stars. Playing a supporting role as a femme fatale Poppaea in Cecil B. DeMille's The Sign of the Cross in 1932, opposite Frederick Marx and Charles Laughton, brought her one of the best remembered scenes of her film career, where she bathes nude in a marble pool filled with milk. That would probably stick with you for a while.
Yeah.
In 1933, Colbert renegotiated her contract with Paramount to allow her to appear in films for other studios. Her breakthrough year came in 1934. In the same year, she appeared in the lavish historical epic Cleopatra for Paramount, the drama Imitation of Life for Universal, and the romantic comedy It Happened One Night for Columbia Pictures. That last film, directed by Frank Capra and co-starring Clark Gable, had Colbert playing a runaway heiress forced to travel cross-country with a cynical reporter. Her performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress. Colbert was very particular about how she appeared on screen and believed her face was difficult to light and photograph. She insisted on having the right side of her face away from the camera when shooting close-up because of a small bump from a broken nose that she received as a child. Colbert learned about lighting and cinematography and refused to begin filming until she was satisfied that she'd be shown in her best advantage.
That is really funny.
Drums Along the Mohawk in 1939 with Henry Fonda was her first color film. She mistrusted the relatively new Technicolor process and, fearing she would not photograph well, preferred thereafter to be filmed in black and white. In 1940, Colbert was offered a 7-year contract with Paramount Pictures that would have paid her $200,000 a year, but she declined the offer after learning that she could command about $150,000 per film as a freelance artist and worked with almost all of the major studios. In 1949, Colbert was asked to play the lead role in All About Eve because the producer felt that she represented the style he envisioned for the part. Unfortunately, Colbert severely injured her back, forcing her to abandon the picture shortly before filming began. Bette Davis was cast instead. In later life, Colbert said, quote, "I just never had the luck to play bitches." By the 1950s, she gradually stepped away from film and returned to the stage, later appearing occasionally on television. In 1954, Colbert turned down a $1 million broadcast deal with NBC TV, but did agree to star in several teleplays for CBS. After a successful appearance in a television version of The Royal Family, she took on more than 20 television works. She starred in television adaptations of Blithe Spirit in 1956, The Bells of St. Mary's in 1959, and guest starred on Robert Montgomery Presents and Playhouse 90. In 1958, she returned to Broadway in The Marriage Go Round, for which she was nominated for a Best Actress Tony Award. And she made a brief return to the big screen and played the supporting role as the mother of Troy Donahue in Parish in 1961. The film was a commercial success, but Colbert received little attention, and she directed her agent to end any further attempts to generate interest in her as a TV or film actress. She continued to appear on Broadway through the 60s and 70s and appeared in a supporting role in the television miniseries The Two Mrs. Greenvilles in 1987, for which she won a Golden Globe and was nominated for an Emmy Award. Towards the end of her life, she was asked why she'd never written an autobiography. Her response was, "I've been happy, and that's no story."
That's true.
Yeah, no, it sounds like she had it's very interesting. It's just that she was so controlling about, okay, how she is going to look on that camera, and actually went to the trouble of learning about lighting and cinematography and everything, not just demanding someone else do it for her.
Yeah.
But she was actually very cognizant of, okay, well, that's coming down too harshly. I know what that's going to do to me. Yeah, I really appreciated that about her.
It's interesting.
This is the film debut of David Newell, who plays our reporter in the film. Newell appeared in RKO's The Runaway Bride in 1929, starring alongside Mary Astor. He also appeared in 1931's 10 Cents a Dance, starring with Barbara Stanwyck, which was also directed by Lionel Barrymore. He'd occasionally receive a starring role, as in 1930's Just Like Heaven, which co-starred Anita Louise. Starring alongside some of the big names of the time, I must admit. By the mid-30s, however, he'd be relegated to smaller roles, but in some big films, including A Star is Born in 1937, Blondie in 1938 alongside Bette Davis, and dozens of other films where he appeared with some of the biggest stars of the day. In his 25-year-long career, he appeared with the likes of Clark Gable, Jimmy Stewart, Tyrone Power, Danny Kaye, and even appeared in Cecil B. DeMille's 1952 blockbuster, The Greatest Show on Earth. In the 1940s, he began to work as a makeup artist and transitioned to that entirely in the early 1950s, largely due to being disfigured in a car accident. He retired from film completely in 1961, but worked as a makeup artist for television into the early 70s. His last credited work was in the Lassie television show. And a little about our director, Robert Florey. He directed more than 50 films. The best known may be the Marx Brothers' first feature, The Coconuts, in 1929, which of course we covered in February of 2025. Florey was born in Paris, France, and it was in Paris that he began his work in film. He moved to Hollywood in 1921 as a journalist for Cine Magazine, and he worked as foreign publicity director for Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford, as well as being the European advanced manager for Rudolph Valentino. He worked as an assistant director on Parisian Nights in 25, before working at MGM, where he was an assistant on several films in the mid-20s. Florey's first film as director was 1 Hour of Love in 1927 for Tiffany Productions. That same year, he also did The Romantic Age for Columbia and Face Value for Sterling. He directed and co-wrote the 27-minute experimental film Johann the Coffin Maker in 1927 in his spare time, shooting at night while working on other films in the daytime. The avant-garde film was made on only 3 sets and involved a lot of trick photography and a lot of trick photographic effects. Florey made many uncredited contributions to the script of 1931 version of Frankenstein. He was to direct the film, and he even filmed a screen test with Bela Lugosi playing the monster, but Universal Pictures gave the job to James Whale, who then cast Boris Karloff. Universal assigned Florey and Lugosi to Murders in the Rue Morgue in 1932. Florey, with the help of cinematographer Karl Freund, and elaborate sets representing 19th century Paris, made Murders of the Rue Morgue into an American version of a German expressionist film. Florey went to Warner Brothers, where he directed a number of kind of B movies, including Girl Missing in 1933 with Glenda Farrell, Ex-Lady of the same year with Bette Davis, Smarty with Joan Blondell, and The Woman in Red with Barbara Stanwyck. He'd eventually return to Paramount, and again with Columbia, as well as work as a freelance director, and even work in television throughout the 1950s and 60s. So yeah, we've got an interesting mix of talent going into this film. Many of them kind of at the beginning of their careers. I believe this may be the first talking film for Claudette Colbert, and certainly one of the earliest, very early one for Edward G. Robinson. Mm-hmm. And it does sound like while Florey, the director, had some experience, he too was kind of really just first experimenting with the medium.
So this movie starts off with a giant accident, which is funny. That's not the very first thing we see, but it's definitely the event that, well, it kind of triggers the action in this movie. It certainly triggers the main action in this movie. But I think it's interesting we have Madame Mysteria, who I think they're just talking about like, hey, let's sell this jewelry, but we're not really going to get as much for it as it's valued at, which is correct. That's right.
Yeah.
Heads up, if you steal something super valuable, you can't usually turn around and sell it for its full price. So, a fair warning. But Madame Mysteria gets on a train on the L, which I guess this is in Chicago. I'm guessing it's set in Chicago. Or...
I think it must be. Yeah, I don't know. I do not know where all the elevated trains. Chicago is certainly probably most famous for them.
New York had one. I do know that. I don't know for how long or what period. At one point, they talk about crossing the river, and it looks like New York to me. And Chicago has rivers, but I don't know. We're kind of left to imagine that. And there's kind of this interesting, unimportant detail that the hideout that this gang of basically thieves / spiritualists has is underneath an elevated train. Like, they don't really mention it, but you can hear it regularly throughout the film. And when they go down into the basement area, you can see the struts and the supports of it. So it's really interesting.
The set design of their lair, and that's what it made me think of. As soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, this is like a villain's lair.
Very Phantom of the Opera. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is. The whole design of the thing with the, even in the public areas are very, looks like the Caligari or something like that. It looks very expressionism, the strange angles and stuff like that. And then, you get into the more, hidden or private areas and everything. And it's steel, or it looks like steel and brick, and just the archways and everything.
Trapdoors and tunnels that lead down. And it's very, it feels kind of cobbled. It's kind of a very strange building. It's supposed to be an apartment. They say several times that's the apartment of, but I don't know what apartment building it looks like this.
Oh,
so, but
it's definitely ground floor.
yeah, it's subterranean too. And then Madame Mysteria gets on an elevated train, and there's a horrific elevated train wreck, which is, I think, pretty graphic for 1929. You're not seeing blood and stuff, but.
No, but there is definitely some inferences and everything, and there's the shot of like the baby lying on the ground. It's moving, but then it's just a limp hand hanging above it and stuff like that. I'm like, woof, wow, there's some dark imagery to start this film.
So I think this is the part that still confuses me. Whose baby is that? I still don't know, because I kept trying to figure out, wait, is this Madame Mysteria's baby? And we just didn't get told?
No, they weren't the only ones on the train. It was the entire...
Wait, they didn't have a private train?
Considering their layer, you're surprised. Right. But no, it was just a public train, so it was just other passengers. I think there was even a shot of the woman holding her child. It wasn't important to this story who it was, but there was one there, yes.
But just know that a lot of people died. That's the important part, but not the baby. And we see Fox and the other guy. I want to call him Jimmy. I don't know if that is
It was Jim. The tall man was Jim.
I keep wanting to call him Jimmy. So we see Fox and Jim looking for Madame Mysteria, and very quickly find out that she is one of the victims of this elevated train wreck. And there's just kind of thing after thing happens here. You're getting a little bit of an idea of who these people are, but there's not it's just very straightforward. There's not a lot to talk about. It's just, it is what it is.
No, certainly in the beginning of the film, it is just A gets you to B, gets you to C. We just need to move this along. We need to get this out of the way so we can get to the meat of the film.
And so I kind of feel like a lot of our conversation about this film is going to be like that, because it's only a 62-minute film. It goes very fast. A lot of things happen, but in a very compressed timeline. And that is kind of, at some points they mention months, At some points, it kind of feels like maybe this is just a 3 days of events that just happened. It's not really clear that things are getting spun out over a long period of time here.
That confused me really early on when we get to, we meet Jean and we figure out, Jean tells her story, literally.
Yes.
Tells her story. She comes in for her scene of exposition and everything. And they pretty much set up, okay, this is what the rest of the film is going to be about.
Yes.
Listen, if I take this job, the first thing I want to do is get even with Mrs. Ramsey. Will you help me?
I certainly will.
I want to make her suffer the way she made me suffer.
All right, kid, you're on. What's the dope?
Do you remember that son of hers I told you about?
Yeah?
Well, after they set me up, he forgot all about me. Sure, I knew he would. I wasn't up there 4 months when he married Alice Scott, the daughter of Senator Scott. They had a daughter. She's the only grandchild, and Mrs. Ramsey, just worships her. Well, I'm going to kidnap her.
Say, that's pretty risky business. Public opinion is dead set against kidnapping. And a well-known child like that, why, she's the heiress to millions.
Now, don't get me wrong. There'll be no money in it for any of us. I'm not kidnapping her for the ransom. I'm going to bring her up with me. I'll teach her to hate the laws that I hate. To lie and cheat and steal. And someday when she's caught, I'll send word to Mrs. Ramsey and tell her what I've done with her granddaughter.
They do. That happens off screen. You don't get to see that. And then the next we see them, they're with the child. Jimmy and Goofy are playing with this girl. They're having fun. They're playing horsey and everything. Fox and Jean are looking at a paper, and the big headline is about this child being kidnapped. It's misspelled.
Yeah.
And so you think this headline is like today's headline. It was that just happened, or that just happened yesterday. But the way everyone interacts with this kid and the way the kid interacts with everybody else, you feel like lots of time has elapsed. The child is calling Jean mommy, and she's having fun, and she's dancing, and she's singing, and like, did I miss something?
You do, because later in the film, much later, somebody's talking to the police, and they say, you've had a month. You haven't
4 months.
Is it 4 months? Okay.
Yes,
See it
yes.
again.
The grandmother, when she's berating the police, yes, in like the last third of the film or something like that, is yelling at the police chief, it's been 4 months. You're like, wait, really?
Yeah. So apparently we see Jean, and then it skips ahead 4 months, because it seems like everything that happens from the point that we have her as Madame Mysteria and they have the baby, or the kid they keep calling her, it all happens within a matter of a couple of days. Like, it's a very compressed timeline. So I guess we just skipped 4 months. And I was really curious, you mentioning just now, like, they don't show the kid getting kidnapped or anything like that. I thought, well, I wonder, this is how my brain works, guys. I wonder if that has something to do with the Lindbergh baby being kidnapped. No, the Lindbergh baby was not kidnapped for 3 more years after this movie, which then makes me think, did this movie have something to do with the Lindbergh baby getting kidnapped? Oh, no, this is horrible. I don't think there's any connection. I certainly hope not.
I hope not.
Yeah, but it was just really kind of a random, very, very well-known rich family in this city, and somebody kidnaps the baby, obviously for very different reasons. And unfortunately, this one is fake, and unfortunately, the other one was not fake, which would be way better if it had been fake. But no, so we have this 4-month gap, apparently, and Jean is already doing an exceptional job which she mysteriously, magically almost, knew the code that they used, that they all got from being in prison, which I got to admit, that's actually a pretty nice little If you have to have a plot device, that's a legitimate one to use.
Yeah.
So
that didn't bother me too much because it sort of made sense because we've seen that in films. We've seen that in films of the era where people are in prison and they're tapping on the pipes to communicate, kind of their own little Morse code. So that works.
No,
That's fine.
love it. I love that they use that as an explanation because you have to get past this, her being able to do something convincingly very fast, like very, very fast. And to have that explanation for it is very satisfying. Hey, we're happy. We're not hard to please. Just give us a reasonable answer and we're good. And they do.
Right.
And then and then we introduce the guy that she, during her exposition, which, by the way, as soon as Claudette Colbert comes onto this screen, I'm captivated. She is, I can't take my eyes off her. She is absolutely captivating. Her acting in 1929 is better than some actors today. This is not...
No, I agree.
This is just raw talent here. This woman is incredible. There are people that have been going to acting school for the last 15, 20 years that cannot even touch what she does here. And I mean, she's fairly young in this film. So, no wonder she was making $150,000 per film, back when that was, gosh, that's more than most of us make today. Like, whoa. So that's not surprising to me at all because she is phenomenal. And to the point where I'm like, how have I not seen more with this woman in it before now? It's just mind-blowing. So, everybody, you hear the names of these actors and these actresses and you think, oh, well, they were famous because at that time there weren't a lot of great actors around. Actually, some of these people, most of these people, it's incredible. They are as famous as they are today. Even maybe more famous than they were at the time because of how incredibly good they are at this. And I can't say her name right, but Claudette Colbert is absolutely no exception to that. It's almost funny, to the level that you kind of don't notice Edward G. Robinson in this movie, which is weird.
Yeah, I was going to say, almost all the other characters sort of have their own ways of standing out, and he just seems to be this background character throughout the film, even though he's very front and center through most of it. Yeah. I kind of want to know more and spend more time with Jim and Goofy. They seem more, they're a little bit more of an personable, more of an expressive characters.
Yeah.
Where Edgar G. Robinson is he's the guy in the back and goes, yeah, we can help you. And I'm not going to smile. And
he comes across to me in this movie as the puppet master, the shadow master. He's in the background, not putting himself forward. He's calling all the shots, but he's also not interesting, right? He's intentionally not interesting. So the character really works for me. The guy that plays Goofy, Donald Meek, he is in one of the Thin Man movies. And when I see his face, all I think is Vera, old girl. Every time I see him, that's one of the lines. He says, Vera, old girl, something, something. But I didn't recognize him until I looked it up and was like, oh, that's what I know him from. But he is one of those faces that when you see him, you will recognize that you've seen him before, but you'll have no idea. You will think it was some guy that was sitting in the dentist's office next to you, but it's actually him. This is the guy. Like, he's in so many things. He was in Shirley Temple movies. He was in major movies, but always is this kind of weird, kind of goofy, little bit goofy character. So it is interesting. And then you've got Jim, who is putting on this incredible Indian headdress to make himself 7 feet tall. So tall that his feather always brushes the top of the door every time he walks through it. And I love that they have these details. There's a point where Claudette Colbert is in her Madame Mysteria garb, and she's after her former boyfriend, not boyfriend, but they grew up together. She's always been in love with him, yada, yada. Okay, sigh, whatever, yawn. But they have this conversation where he doesn't know who she is, and then she's, once out of the room, and so, she stands up, so he has to stand up because, heads up, guys, when a lady stands up, you have to stand up too, by the way. And then Jim comes back in, and you see this long shot of the three of them, and she's hunched down, presumably to kind of disguise her height, and he has this crazy tall headdress to disguise his height, and it's brilliant. It's a thing that a smart person would do if they didn't want to be easily identified to the police. You hide your height, you hide your age, you hide your gender if possible, you hide your wealth status to be completely unidentifiable to the police, and you can tell that they're doing these things. This Jim is just a dude, and I'm going to say it, sorry, he's just a white dude, but they have him done up as this like Maharaja character, and he looks 7 feet tall. Now, he's not short to begin with, but he's just looks completely different than if you saw him in his suit walking down the street, and she does too. So these are people that are very skilled at what they're doing. We already know that they've been doing it for a long time. Fox says that it's the most lucrative gig they've ever had, and they'd hate to let it go. And it's just super convenient that that Jean walks in right when Madame Mysteria dies. It's a little too convenient for me, but it's also 1929. And so books at this time read similarly too, by the way. There's less nuance than we're trying for these days. But and then everything goes perfectly for them. They get the baby.
For a while.
They keep running Madame Mysteria. And then her boyfriend, I'm going to want to call him her boyfriend. Her boyfriend shows up and just happens to become involved with helping this horrible woman who got Jean fired for no good reason and sent to jail, by the way, for no good reason. He just happens to be there. He just happens to recognize her handwriting. He just happens to recognize the name. Oh, I knew a girl named Jean Oliver.
Yeah, it's definitely a early 1920s and early 1930s trope where you have the big shot newspaper reporter working hand in hand with the police chief.
Yes, because that happens frequently then.
Yeah. About 30, 40 years later, you end up with the Rockford Files where the police chief is like, would you get out of my...
Yeah. You've been in my office for 40 years. Get out. And I have to absolutely mention David Newell. I almost think I can just stop there. David Newell. Really? Is he the only guy they could find, or was he somebody's nephew?
Right. Yeah, he doesn't really, light any fires here in this, does he? I mean, it
such
was
a polite way to put it.
It was his debut. He doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but unfortunately, I think that shows.
He doesn't have a lot of experience after this either. He has so few named credits. He did a ton of credits, like you mentioned. He went through like 150 credits, but I think only 6 of them are actually credited. And this movie, I think, perfectly shows why. Because
he is very generic. There is probably 4 dozen guys just like him working in Hollywood at this time.
I see you guys have some more great stories about the robbery last night. Huh?
I'm a newspaper man. I never read the papers. I don't care who was at the opera, or who was run over, or who committed suicide. Well, what's on your mind today?
Plenty. They've been razzing the life out of me because I haven't cleared up that Cars Lake gem theft. Well, I've run down every clue. There isn't a ray of hope.
Yeah? Headlines. Inspector Nichols says not a ray of hope. You don't want me to print that, do you?
Oh, come on now. You've done some good work for me before. Now, you covered the story for the Chronicle, so you must have some hunch about it.
Well, I have had something up my sleeve since the robbery, but it might sound silly to you.
Who do you suspect?
Well, I found out that Mrs. Carslake believes in spiritualism.
What of it?
Oh, nothing. Only you remember the Compton robbery during the summer?
Yes?
$200,000 worth of jewels stolen. No clues. Well, Mrs. Compton believed in spiritualism, too. It's rather strange that both women should be clients of the same medium, Madame Mystera.
I think it's beyond that. I think he's awkward. There, in the very first scene, he sits down to talk to the police chief, and he's doing something so weird with his mouth that I honestly could not. And I'm sorry, it's not that it's like, oh, he looks weird. He's a generic, good-looking, tall, dark-haired white man. Exactly what they were casting in this role back then. But his lack of acting, and there's some weirdness that it almost feels like it. Honestly, if this were 20 years later, I would say, or 30 years later, I would say he's trying to be James Dean. Like, it's so weird. So yes, I'm a little bit being unkind, but that's also a little bit of our role in this, right? Is to not say, oh, well, he tried, so, 2 thumbs up. It's, could they have found somebody better to do this role? Absolutely. Why didn't they? And it makes it even worse because opposite Claudette Colbert, he is like, you could have put a plank with a smiley face drawn on it opposite her, and it would have had as much character and much characteristics as he has opposite her. Like, how do you walk into a room with Claudette Colbert and behave like that? Like, what? How do you, what? I would have been a better leading man opposite her than he is. So I know it kind of sounds like I'm going over the top on this, but it really is aside from a little bit of shoddy writing, which you can kind of chalk that up to being the era, but you cannot chalk David Newell's performance up to that. It's not just that he's inexperienced, it's that he doesn't have any skills to do it. And then I think that plays out through his career. I think he was a lot of the waiter in the background, which is certainly not mocking the guy. Hollywood is a tough place to be, but when sorry, David Newell, you are the weakest link in this movie. Well,
he ended up starring alongside some big names and some of the huge leading ladies and everything like that. But
he acted in the same films with them, but he wasn't getting the lead roles.
No, he wasn't. It wasn't a lead. No, he was always often a supporting character, occasionally getting a starring role. But you wonder if he was the guy the studios picked because they were trying to highlight their new starlet, and they didn't want anyone to overshadow them.
I mean, that is a good role for him. That would be a very good role for him, would be the guy that does not overshadow the leading lady. He's very wooden. Just looking through his credits, it's just uncredited. And it's you kind of got to admire the guy's stick-to-itiveness to be in so many movies without, credits, where he's not playing, any kind of a lead or anything like that.
Well, maybe that's why he started getting into behind the scenes and start doing
I was
makeup.
thinking that too. And maybe he's excellent with that. And so maybe that was like his bread and butter. And they were like, hey, we need a tall guy in the background. You want to jump on set real quick? Which would make a lot of sense in Hollywood in this era.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's very true. Yeah, I have a feeling there may be more to his story than what you're going to be able to, easily dig up. And
yeah. I feel like he's definitely not a well-known enough name to be able to go in and say he's not going to have an autobiography about himself.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think there's any David Newell's biographers out there.
No. And I'm not, whether or not he had a biography, I'm not super sad that we don't see him again as a leading man throughout the 60s and 70s. But in this movie, back to The Hole in the Wall, it's especially hard to see Like, it's funny, nobody else bothered me. You know, you have the police chief that's he's the police chief, and he's got to be the tough guy, and he's got to square off against Edward G. Robinson, you know, and honestly, I appreciated they have a little bit of banter at the end, which I really appreciated. I really, I don't think it's giving too much away to say Edward G. Robinson doesn't get shot in this movie, which made me really happy. The second time I watched it, I was like, shoot, does he get shot? I forget. And then I was really happy that it didn't, because it seems like he does in a lot of movies end up get killed. But I think, too, if anybody else had been annoying, I'd probably pick on David Newell a little bit less. But nobody else annoyed me. Everybody else, like, even the lady who played the rich lady, Mrs. Ramsey, and it's, by the way, Louise Closer Hale, if you're curious, or Closser. I couldn't tell you what else she was in. She looks familiar to me. I mean, I could tell you what else she's in. I could literally pull it up on my computer. But she doesn't bother me. Her character is obnoxious, but her character is supposed to be obnoxious. And she does a good job of being kind of the old woman that is horrible that you kind of want to shake. But nobody else is like, ooh, couldn't they have found somebody better for that role? Everybody else, you know, all the kind of weird, not goofy, but goofy sidekicks that they have are all interesting and personable, like you said. Mm-hmm. So this movie is really short.
It is very short. You definitely feel like this is an abridged story. And I have to think that, you know, the original stage play had to be more than an hour and 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so this must be really condensed. And everything that I read, and even like original reviews at the time and everything, said that this film only clocks in at 63 minutes. So there is no longer
lost
version
footage.
That there lost footage or anything. But it feels like there is. There is, the opening credits just stop almost instantly in the middle of someone's sentence. It's not a fade out. It's loud music. Here's the names, and boom, someone's talking. You're like, oh, wow. And there's moments where it looks like the sound has been lost.
Yeah,
because
at least two parts. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. You know, I'm maybe it has. I mean, I'm looking multiple versions and everything, and it's the same way in all of them. So it's not. If it's lost, it was lost a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like a film that has been kicked through the gutter a little bit before it found its way online.
Well, we're working our way through a book. I don't want to give too much away about it, but it's about pre-code films and understanding a little bit more about that, how each major city area had their own review board and would just cut things out if they didn't like it, makes me think like there's a part where there's a toddler in life-threatening danger and she's very clearly crying, and maybe they couldn't get the audio good because of the way that the area is, because this whole scene in this particular spot, there's no audio. But I also kind of thought, I wonder if this toddler screaming mama, mama in a life-threatening situation was just considered too troubling for audiences at the time. Because I mean, I know people today that would horrify them, and they'd be like, why did they make this? And I mean, gosh, knowing what we know now, what did they do to that kid to get her to do that? Oh my Lord, I don't even want to think about it. It was 1929. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, there are so many options. It could have been lost. It could have been excised. It could have been we were unable to record it because of the situation that we were filming it, because it is 1929. It is early in the sound era. There's so many reasons that this film could be.
The place. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many reasons. Yeah. It's too far away. We have to keep the camera so far back. We can't pick up anything, so sorry. No idea. Yeah. There's so many ways that there could not be audio in these few moments. And there's other times where there's audio that you can't hear, like right after the accident. Fox and Goofy
Jimmy.
are talking.
Oh, Goofy. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Goofy. They're talking, and behind, there's flames are burning. There's fire department bells ringing. There's people yelling and screaming, and no idea what they're saying to each other. They're talking. You can kind of hear it. They're motioning to each other. They're motioning behind them, and then you're kind of like you see them sort of like, let's get out of here. Okay, I don't know what that was about because I couldn't understand a word of it because everything else was so loud.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I could pick up that they're like, that was the car Madame Mysterio was in. But, it's not really necessary exposition. We kind of gathered that. And then the next scene specifically says it. There's something near the end, too. Oh, gosh, I almost want to say the very last line of the movie. I think it's Edward G. Robinson says something, and I have no idea what he said. I just don't know what he said. And there are a few lines that are very garbled. And then add to that where they have like the effect of, I guess, a train going by like at regular intervals whenever they're in the lair, which is a really interesting choice. Like, why?
Really weird. Yeah, that's really weird because I don't recall picking that up myself.
Well, at one point, I thought, oh, they're trying to have like the sound of that giant statue moving as a door, but it would happen when that wasn't going on. And so the only thing I could figure was it'd be like this kind of rush of sound as if it were the sound effect of like a stone wall moving.
Interesting. See, and I wonder if what you're picking up is actually just an artifact of just early sound, because there are moments when the people are talking, there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah.
There's just and then when no one's saying anything, it's dead quiet.
Yeah.
And then as soon as someone opens their mouth, it is like hitting a brick wall of sound again. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there was an attempt to do some sort of effect or about the train, or if it's just because that's how things recorded.
Yeah, I have no idea either. At some point, I think I decided it must have been intentional because it's not throughout the whole movie. Like a lot of films we'll get from this era, and even a little bit later, the sound is muddy, but it's muddy through the whole movie. And so, like you said, sometimes it is, and sometimes the dialogue is just it's crystal clear, and then other times it's got this weird background noise. So yeah, interesting audio issues.
Yeah, very
interesting premise. I was telling somebody that I work with about this movie and kind of explaining, yeah, it's this lady and she got put in prison by a vindictive employer. And so she decides that she's going to kidnap their granddaughter. And my coworker was like, oh my gosh, like if you're describing this in 1929, this is a nefarious plot. You don't just go kidnap kids. Like we don't now either, by the way, in case you guys are wondering.
I do appreciate that they sort of address that in the film a little bit when she's like, when the fox, what do you have in mind? And she's like, oh, I'm going to kidnap their kid. Everyone kind of looks at each other.
Yeah.
You're doing the same. I think you're doing the same thing my wife and I were doing. Like,
yeah,
really?
No, and it is. I mean, this is obviously a person, according to her, she was set up for doing nothing wrong. And so she takes that and swings so hard in the opposite direction. You're kind of like, well, I mean, gumption. Wow. Yeah. And then she's like serious and they do it. And then she's raising this kid. And she does say from the very, very beginning, they say, oh yeah, you get millions for her. And she's like, oh no, we're not going to get millions. I'm going to keep her. And you're like, oh, well, that's a twist, which, she's like, I'm going to raise her and I'm going to turn her into a criminal. And then when she gets caught, I'm going to go to the old lady and be like, ha ha, you suck. Which I'm like, yeah, this is a revenge plot. This is a really good revenge plot. Man, you really want to wreck somebody's life. That's a way to do it, And so not condoning kidnapping, but wow, and it's edgy. And in 1929, it's mind blowing. I have to imagine it's mind blowing. Kidnapping somebody and demanding a ransom is It's been around for millennia, but kidnapping somebody to twist their personality and make them a bad person to punish another bad person, that's really kind of a unique idea.
Go big or go home, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's interesting from that perspective. This isn't just about jewel thieves. This isn't just about spiritualists who are taking advantage of people. I love that they have, I mean, this is the 1920s. Spiritualists were still a pretty big deal. And them saying, like, exposing this is how some spiritualists do it is a pretty big move in this film, I think. You know, and then add the kidnapping plot, add the old lady, add the we've got to rescue the kid plot. I mean, there's so much going on in this movie, and it's only 63 minutes long. And so as movies go, it's very watchable. As writing goes, it has a beginning, a middle, and the end. You know, you're not missing any parts. As acting goes, it's got Claudette Colbert in it and Edward G. Robinson and some other people that actually do a good job in minor ways. And so it's funny. It's a movie that is not going to hit most people's radar, I think.
No, absolutely not.
But it's got some really interesting quirks.
Yeah, and I feel like we're kind of said all we're going to say about the film and probably nearing like giving some sort of ratings and everything. So I'll just ask, is those interesting quirks, is it enough to save the film and to recommend it? I'm not sure that it does. It is interesting. It's just not that interesting for me. I mean, I watched it a couple times, and yeah, it is an easy watch, being at only 63 minutes and everything. And you know, the second time you're watching it, of course, you know what's going to happen, so it even it's even a little easier. But yeah, is it a film that I would ever see myself going back to? No, I can't say that I would. I don't know if this is a film for anyone other than maybe completionists. You know, if you are watching all the films of Colbert or all the films of Robinson, this film is really even watching it in that, it is barely a footnote in their careers.
I think it reminds me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
I think it reminds me from that perspective a little bit of The Bat. We got through The Bat and we were like, eh. And then I think, if I remember correctly, we said, this would be a great play to stage again. Like, I think this would be a really fun, like, dinner theater, local theater group. We just went and saw the Play Goes Wrong. Again, this is the second time we've seen it, by the way. It's so good. We just went and saw it again at an amateur theater. And this storyline, aside from being pretty risque, I mean, you can tell this is pre-code, because the people that kidnap a baby don't die. In a Hays Code approved movie, they would have to die. You can't have them having any kind of a life afterwards.
Or they would definitely be life in prison sort of thing, that they would have to pay for their crimes.
There'd be some moral at the end where somebody looks down the camera and says, well, he was just a rotten person, which is like, oh yeah, let's decomplexify it, please. But it's because of that, I think, because it's kind of not what we have grown to expect because of those rules and regulations that had such an impact for such a long time. I think it makes it interesting. I think to tell somebody, oh yeah, in the 1920s, there was this movie where they kidnapped this little girl and decided to raise her into a criminal, they'd be like, what? Really? They did that in the 1920s? I mean, no, in the movie they did. There, I think, are probably a plethora of other better resources for any of the subjects in this movie. The last, I have to mention it. If you're interested in spiritualism, there's a great fiction novel called The Shabti. It just is good. It really, really is good. There are a couple of I really like historical stuff, and spiritualism was running strong up until at least the 1930s. You think about the World War I was a big boost for it.
Yeah, I think you may have mentioned this book when we did Darkened Rooms, which again revolved about the whole fake spiritualism and everything.
Yeah. And I love it. It's really interesting. Spiritualism at its core was very problematic, but a number of people found happiness or at least resolution through it. And I'm not going to go any further, any more into depth, but it was an interesting period in history. And, from, the Civil War obviously being a huge boost for it, and then up through World War I being a boost for it. It's interesting. And it's interesting to see how people would perpetrate these hoaxes. It's very, very interesting. I think I kind of love that they have a technology facet to this one. Like, that's kind of interesting. It's not one that I would typically look for. Was some of it unnecessary? Yeah, absolutely. Is this a movie that I'm like, hey, if you really want to watch a movie about spiritualism, no, this is not the movie to watch.
No.
This isn't the movie to watch about kidnapping. This is not the movie to watch about romance. This is not the movie to watch about anything, pretty much.
Definitely not the movie you want to watch about spiritualism and the the fraud of the spiritualists and everything. Without giving any spoilers away, because of the end of the film, this is definitely not the film you'd recommend somebody.
No, but that is something. What you're alluding to is two things. One, I found interesting. I found that to be an interesting choice on the filmmaker's part. Two, I think that the fact that we don't want to give away the end is really a mark in its favor. It's like, look, this is not the best movie that you're going to watch, but if you're curious to watch a movie with Edward G. Robinson and Claudette Colbert, one exists. This is not a 1-star, don't waste your time, please. We really don't want you.
Absolutely not.
This isn't
it is
either.
It is not a movie that I would tell people to necessarily shy away from or anything like that. It's just, it certainly doesn't stand out to me as a film that I'd recommend it. For all the reasons I might recommend it are kind of like the wrong reasons to be recommending a film, because of how, in the end, how bizarre and crazy the film gets. It's just like, because there's so many times when you're watching this film, oh, I'm going to kidnap a kid. Wait, what?
Yeah.
And then, wait, it's been 4 months? Excuse me? And then, of course, this is her childhood beau.
Boyfriend.
Yeah. And then, yes, the end of the film is like, what?
Where's the hidden ball? See if you can spot the ball. It does kind of go off the rails. This movie is all over the place. It just boomerangs around. And so, to your point, do you want to see Claudette Colbert's first talkie? This is the movie for you. This is it. This is the only one.
This is it.
You have to watch this one. Do you want to see Edward G. Robinson's best film? Man, we got 2 others that are way better. We already covered.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll see Claudette again, hopefully in the near future, hopefully in the next, year or so. Now that we know how great she is, if she pops up, we'll go, ooh, we really liked her. Hey, if you want to go see Goofy in something, this is not, by the way, the animated Goofy. go watch. I think it's The Thin Man Goes Home.
Okay.
I think it's the second Thin Man movie, and in my opinion, it is the best Thin Man movie. By the way, Jimmy Stewart plays a bad guy. Spoiler alert. But he doesn't do that very often. But it's so worth watching. So many of the movies that any of these actors showed up in. And yeah, you're right. This is not the one. This is not the film to get you through anything except a Claudette Colbert, Edward G. Robinson completionist thing. Or if you want to get really crazy, go look up Donald Meek and watch all of his movies, because I really like him. But he is always a bit part. He's always the character actor.
Well, to wrap it up and everything, to give a rating, I'm only going to give it I think the best I can do is like 2.5. I think is where I fall. I just can't cross that line into the medium right in the middle. I have to just keep it down under that 3. I can't do it. So 2.5 for me. How many Ophel does this one fall with everything we've talked about and everything?
I think you're dead on. I think 2.5 is right. As much as it's like, well, there's some things in it that I want to give it a higher rating for. Realistically, the movie as a whole is a 2.5 Othels for me. Was I mad that I had to watch it a second time? No, I wasn't mad. I thought there was enough interesting, weird stuff going on that for 63 minutes of my life, it was worth a second watch. Would I go back and watch it again? I mean, if I thought of somebody that I was like, hey, you need to see this movie, yeah, I'd watch it with them again. Would I tell them, hey, you absolutely have to go watch this movie? I don't know. I guess it depends on if you want to know how it ends.
This is the type of film where it makes me think that when we started our rating system, we should have broke it down to like plot, acting, directing.
Yeah, and said how, and then averaged it out. Yeah, that's not, maybe one day, now that we're 12, 13 years into this, maybe we'll revamp
14, 15, right? 14 years later, we're starting to think,
maybe we should be a little more scientific about this. Maybe not. The reality is you and I don't always agree on ratings. I mean, we've had movies where you were like, oh, this was awful. And I was like, oh, I loved it. And vice versa, where I was like, this
right.
was painful. And you're like, this was so good. And so it's so subjective. It kind of, if you listen to our episodes a few times, watch a couple of our movies, you'll very quickly get to know which one of us you side with more often.
Yes.
And it'll be easy to say, is this what I should watch or shouldn't watch? But ultimately, these podcasts and these movies are all about getting to experience movies that we otherwise would not get to, and getting to talk about those and getting to interact with all of you about them and hear your comments, read your comments, I guess, hear your voice messages and see your emails. As much as I'd love to say we get paid just thousands of dollars a month to do this, we don't. We do this for the love of it, guys. So if you disagree with us on a rating, or if you agree with us on a rating, you can always reach out to us. Let us know. Join our Discord group. Pop over onto our YouTube channel. Comment on one of the videos, or email us at orphanedentertainment@gmail.com. We love reading your messages and hearing your opinions about the wonderful David Newell.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like Pete and Mark, thank you very much for leaving your comments and sharing your reviews of the films. We really do appreciate it. I guess that will do it. Lydia has said everything. So with that, we'll just thank you very much for listening, and I guess we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Yeah, I totally just yanked that right out from under you, but I was on a roll. I was like, I'll just go.